Thank you.
Fantastic.
Okay, our next reader, he is the co-founder of Gorski Press, although you guys probably know him better as the editor of Razorcake Fanzine. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Mr. Todd Taylor.
So over the last 15 years, I've interviewed over 300 bands, and I wanted to do some vignettes, 3 vignettes, that kind of cover some of the recurring themes in punk rock. Vignette number 1 by the Grab Ass Charleston's Cops Suck. Woo! PJ, 4th of July, we're in Colorado Springs, Texas, and we built a fire. 2 bottles of whiskey, many cases of beer, we get wasted. Dave, he goes out to fetch firewood and fell in a cactus bush. Dave, there was a dead tree that needed a little help coming down, and I gave it a whole bunch of help, and Newton's laws got involved, and I landed on a cactus. PJ, we spent about an hour and a half in front of the van lights, yanking those spines out. Dave, he's injured, so he's drinking with a vengeance. Dave, I was celebrating, man. It was 4th of July. Texas had fireworks for hours. Vantage point we had the horizon of Texas. You can see the communities competing with one another for their fireworks. PJ, so the next thing me and Will know, the tent's getting kicked by, seriously, mirrored shade mustachio dude named Tracy Ferguson. Line up in front of the van. Will, the man's fighting off a lifetimes of insecurities. PJ, hoping that we'll give him the respect that he so needs so bad and deserves. Dave at this point is handcuffed, shotgunned, very injured. Will, I was sleeping in the van at the time. I was looking at our friend Tracy, knocking on the window. I was buried under some shit, and I looked up and saw him. Oh, God damn it, it's the cops. Buried myself again. Then I kind of realized he was still there, so I got up, and he's all, get out of the van! So I got up, stumbled out without any shoes, shirtless. What the fuck is going on? Then I snuck back in the van, took a piss in the jug, but then I realized the reality set in when I saw Dave in the back of the white car. PJ, we're all lined up. They're gonna ticket us for the beer. Lame ticket, whatever. You know that guy? I see Dave handcuffed, looking really bummed, shirtless, haggard. Dave, I was shirtless all night, man. We got there, shirts off. Will, shirts off, dude's on. PJ, after the last time we saw Dave, he took a spill on the road. This guy was insinuating that we threw Dave out of the van. Oh, we're driving a van around the state park. Let's throw Dave out just for fun. Dave, I threw myself places. I remember being upside down. I remember my head hurting, and then I remember my head being wet. Will, with his own blood. Dave, it seemed like to make sense at the time. Trying to find campsite 127, and I was woken up with mirrored sunglasses and a mustache. Will, in super cop voice. This guy's injured. What happened? PJ, he fell into some cactuses. That's not cactus injuries. That's road burn. What'd you guys do to him? You guys went to sleep and left that guy in the middle of the road. Will, the cop accused us of beating Dave up, throwing him out of the van, dragging him behind the van, and then Dave gets taken to jail? Dave, I go to the cell and there's a plate with 3 sections. There's a pile of grits, jelly, and one of the biscuits had already had a corner eaten out of it. The guard was all, Tuesday's biscuits? Hell yeah, I don't give a shit about this guy. Dave, as I'm getting fingerprinted, so well, what's the charge? Public intoxication. Fair enough. You got me. All right, so the next theme is, I learned this from Alice Bag, who's in a great band in the 70s called The Bags. And the theme is pretty straightforward. A lot of Alice Bag. A lot of parents really do suck. So Alice, was it prohibited to speak English in your house? Alice, yes. In my house, we were only allowed to speak Spanish. My father figured I would learn English in school, and I did, but it was a very painful process. I remember crying and being very frustrated because I couldn't answer. I felt like you could see it in the teacher's face, like, this kid is dumb. Todd, that's me. Alice, I have a kind of difficult question to ask. You mentioned in a Lost Trace interview concerning Lyric, quote, "I didn't kill my husband, but domestic violence is something that I grew up around." Was that referring to your father? Alice. Yes. Do you think that abuse that you saw your father give your mother was one of the release points for the bags? Like you finally got a microphone you can sing in front of an audience? Alice. Absolutely. I think as a child, you can't really express the intense feelings of fear, anger, and helplessness that you go through when you witness something like that. You kind of stuff it all in. You're hopeless. And I didn't just often witness the violence. At times, I was thrown in the middle of it. I had to try to break it up. At one point, I remember my father had beaten my mother, and he was kneeling her in front of him. And he spit at her. And I was crying on the side, telling him to stop, and he said, "No. I want you to come over here and spit on her." And I refused to do it. You can't do anything at that point but cry and hold that rage in. And I think the bags was just a perfect vehicle to let out all that anger and frustration. I think I would have expressed myself violently toward my father if I had been 19 or 20 when the abuse was going on. Alright, so the last vignette is with a guy named Mike Wiebe from the Riverboat Gamblers. And another recurring theme in punk rock, drugs, and the occasional drug test. Mike. I barely do much drugs, like pot or anything like that. And then one time, randomly at a party, I thought, whatever, I'll try this thing. So of course the next week, I get into an accident at work and I have to take a piss test. And I'm freaking out. God, I just got the job and I've got to take a test. What am I going to do? So I knocked on my neighbor's door, who I'm friends with, but not great friends with. And I decided not even to beat around the bush. I knocked on the door and go, "Hey man, can I borrow a cup of urine?" He gave me some urine. I filled it into a condom and tied it off. And now they have the sensors on the piss cups, the warming strips to tell if it's the right temperature. I thought, I gotta keep this warm. So I sat on the front of my dashboard of my car. It was a summer, it was in Texas, it's hot. I'm driving to work, watching this urine-filled condom roll up and down my dash, reflecting on what my life has become. So after that, I get into the parking lot, and I taped it to the inside of my leg, and I walked in. I cleverly had a little Misfits button on, and I went into the bathroom, and I took it off and popped the condom and squeezed the urine in there. But I hadn't practiced with the urine pressure techniques, spraying through the hole, and so there's no sink in there because they don't want you to do what I was doing, messing with your thing. So I get urine all over my hands, the cup, my shirt and stuff, and it was freaking me out. I just kind of walked out with this frazzled look and pissed everywhere. Oddly enough, I passed with flying colors. Or I guess my neighbor Ian passed with flying colors, actually. Thank you very much.